Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza. And if you've spent a second here, you will know that I'm on a mission to give you everything you need to be successful in your business. Providing, of course, what you need to be successful in your business is to know more about and be better at sales and marketing. So I'm here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing in our What the series. We bring in Melanie Farmer every other week to talk about the marketing news and how it might impact your life. And as part of the Talk Marketing series, I'm pulling in anyone I can find with experience to share with you to support you to be more successful in your business. So today's guest is a marketing and advertising graduate with a master's in marketing. He has agency experience going back to 2009 when he volunteered with a marketing agency. He spent 6 years at Sainsbury's in customer service and then PR positions. He has also been an online partnership assistant and a senior media executive. He is now CEO of Bobble Digital, which was awarded Best Digital Marketing Agency in 2021 and 2022 in Leeds. People describe him as an extremely passionate advocate of marketing, an exceptional digital marketer, extremely helpful and knowledgeable about marketing, and a pleasure to do business with. There is a quote on his LinkedIn profile that reads, "Our legacy is how we spend our time and who we spend it with." We are extraordinarily blessed that he is spending time with us today. Today's guest is Manpreet Singh. Good morning, Manpreet.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin. It's a pleasure to be on.
It is an absolute pleasure.
It
is an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much, man, for being here. It's interesting. It's really all interesting. What is interesting? Here's the question I have for you before we get into the actual questions. You don't hear about people being a passionate advocate of cash flow. Cash flow is a bad example. You don't hear about people being a passionate advocate of accountancy. You don't hear about people being a passionate advocate of architecture. You don't hear about people being a passionate advocate of banking. Why do there need to be passionate advocates of marketing? And why are you one? That's the question.
It's something you have to live and breathe. To me, this isn't a job. This isn't something that I get up and do 9 to 5. Very early on, when I was doing my A-levels, I don't know if the A-levels even exist anymore. I feel that's my age. It was the marketing module within business studies that actually inspired me and was like, actually, I love this. This is cool. This is great. The whole advertising. And it's sometimes you get into a career, sometimes you get into an area and it just fits with you, who you are. So I guess a lot of that passion comes from my personality and who I am as an individual that links with the industry in which I'm in terms of allows me to thrive. So for me, I guess a lot of it is because when I started my own agency, I was on dialysis, my kidneys had failed. So Bobble Digital became my lifeline as well. So it became my reason why to get out of bed in the morning that most people probably don't really get. And as unfortunate it was for me to be on dialysis, I was quite fortunate to find something to cling on to that gave me a reason, a purpose. So I'd say the reason I'm passionate about it is because every time I'm talking about it, whether it's on my podcast or to clients or at events, it comes naturally to me. I'm not trying to think of what I'm trying to say. It just comes naturally to me and authentic. So people can see the passion come through because I start smiling and I start getting into the nooks and crannies of when I'm talking about something. And that's when you know you're in tune with what you do and what you love. So I guess that's probably why people say I'm passionate, because it's how I come across more than anything else.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, that's really cool. And I had that as well. When I was running my agency between 2005, 2014, I launched myself out of bed every day. I was so happy to go out in the world and spread this message about marketing. But the question I'm asking of you now is a little bit different. People don't need to be motivated to do their accounts. They don't need to be motivated to do their production. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's something about marketing. And the thing about it for me is that this is the key to being successful in your business. Like I say to people, if this is what you need, it 100% is what people need. They don't know when they go into business that being in business is an exercise in having customers profitably. And if you're going to do that, you have to be finding and winning or attracting and winning customers all the time. That is doing marketing. And then we have to go out there and motivate them to do this one thing, which is the one thing that will make them successful. They know that everything else that goes on has to happen and they just get on and do it. Marketing seems to me to be different from that.
Yeah, I guess it's the unknowable element of it, how the environment constantly changes. You look at marketing from like 5, 10 years ago to what we do now. It's so evolved. It's led by their customers as well. So we as people decide what trends and where, because that's where we spend our time. Where you spend your time. Now everyone's spending their time on TikTok, so that is like the next big trend in terms of like a social media platform, for example. Everyone's watching short-term video content, so we have to adapt. So for businesses, it's, I guess, the challenge and element and the passion kind of comes from it because it's so unknowable but so beautiful at the same time, in the sense that it's so changing and it changes in front of our eyes in real time, that you have to keep up more than anything else.
Yeah. And I often think the challenge is, like, when I was running an agency, we were running, I don't know, 10, 15 campaigns at a time. Like we always had 10 or 15 campaigns running. So we were in the tools all day, every day. Now I'm not doing that anymore. Like, it's really hard to keep up. Like, if you're not on it all day, every day, it's really hard to keep up. Like, I've got a mate and he's brilliant. He's a brilliant marketer. He's been in business for 20 years. He's ridden every single wave and rinsed every single wave. So it was PPC, and it was SEO, then it was social, then it was, and he really rinsed every single one. But now when he goes in to do it every 6 months, everything's changed. He doesn't know how to do it anymore. Do you know what I mean? So he'll put together a PPC campaign and then he'll go back to review it 6 months later and he's got no idea what's going on. I think that definitely is part of the challenge. But I think the start of the challenge is that people don't really get what marketing is and they don't know that they should be doing it. And I think that's weird. You're shaking your head. Are you agreeing with me, or you're just shaking your head at the state of that situation?
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think a lot of the challenges I face when we go to either prospects or we're going into clients is, and what separates us is the education. Not only do we tell our clients what to do, we tell them why they need to do it and the benefit of doing it this way. Not just for the now, but for the potential future. You can only predict us so far with certain channels, like the Google algorithm changes constantly. So you have to be on top of that with SEO. But there are fundamentals that you need to do in place that you need to explain and educate clients on. And you're right there. That's what I was trying to kind of like nod my head off, shake my head. Was like, yeah, you're right. So many people don't know where to begin and what to do and why they should be doing it.
Yes. And my frustration, although this isn't about my frustrations, but my frustration was always that they would see you speak and they'd invite you into their business, and then I would blow their mind with the opportunity, and they'd agreed they'd wanted to do something. And then immediately I would go back once things are in effect, and they would be the world's leading expert on this thing, and they only want this thing to happen or that thing to happen, and they only want it to happen in this way or that way. Has that changed in the, I don't know, 8 years since I've been client-facing, client-winning?
No, it hasn't changed. But this is how I deal with it. So if I've done a strategy for a company and they come in and they want to start changing it and do it their way, I serve them notice. And then they get surprised because I'm like, well, no, you hire me as the expert to come in and tell you what you need to do. I've gone through it. I've educated you. I've done the research. I've brought the data in around your competitors, your audience, what they're doing online, how to target them. I've given you the blueprint, what to do it. If you think you're better than me and my strategy is wrong, then do it your own way. But I will not agree. The difference with us is I'm not a yes person to clients.
Yeah.
With clients, my job is to make sure that the strategy I implement delivers. And 9 out of 10 times we hit the nail on the head. And that odd time, there's other circumstances like, economical elements that you can't control. That means you don't get the desired results you want, but you still get some results. And it's more of a learning phase. But that's where I go back, because that still happens, at which point it's almost like a light bulb moment with them, because I say, well, no, if you think you're better and you can do it better, then you've just wasted my time. I'm wasting your time. I'm not a yes person. You either do it my way and trust me to do it my way, which is why you're paying me to do it and why you asked me to come in. Or if you think you can do it better and you're now an expert on it, go ahead. And then what you find is they change their tune and say, okay, no, because you've kind of given them a reality check that, no, I'm not going to accept that we do things. Yes, certain businesses have to do things in certain ways in terms of tone of voice, but specifically in industries like financial, that you have to go through FCA compliance. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like, oh, why don't we just do LinkedIn and do this? Well, no, that doesn't go in line with the overall strategy and understanding of who your customer is and why we've developed the strategy that way.
100%. And again, this doesn't happen, I don't think, in other functions in the business. Like, I've never seen a business owner arguing with the accountant necessarily. We want to do the accounts this way or that way, or with the bookkeeper. Or I've never seen anyone going for open heart surgery and then dictate to the surgeon how they're going to perform the open heart surgery. It feels like there's something, like marketing for me is way too ambiguous. I understand what you're saying is like tremendously exciting. It's evolving all the time. It's all this thing. But I think the stat is, I don't know because I glanced at it, but I think it's something like 78% of the businesses that go out of business cite like a failure in sales and marketing as the reason they're going out of business. I wouldn't be surprised if it's higher, but it just weirds me out, Manpreet. And I've been on this like my whole life since I started work. It still weirds me out that people don't get that this is the thing they have to do if they want to be successful. Like, you look at the most successful brands on the planet, they are the best marketers. They invest the most in marketing. Yeah. But small businesses still don't seem to get this.
Because marketing's a cost. And they feel like if they're already doing well, then they've done well and got to that point without sales or marketing.
Yes.
Because it's their personal experience within businesses. This is what I find with business owners is they feel like the marketers themselves, and they have to be given credit because they've built that business up without like a fundamental digital marketing strategy or without an agency and got that far already. So in the back of their mind, they kind of see it as like it's just a cost for cost's sake. And it comes down back to that element earlier, which is education. They don't understand that actually to go from, yes, you've gone from A to B, but now you need to go from, B all the way to Z, because Z is, I want to sell my business, or Z is, I want to be acquired by someone else, or Z is, I want to be a global company, or I want to hit X amount of revenue. But to scale up, they don't realize that they have to invest in not just their internal marketing, but their external marketing as well. So everything they've done up to that point is good for that level of operation, but to achieve the future objectives, they lack the understanding and the knowledge and the education of why sales and marketing is so important at that stage in terms of driving that element. So I always see it with a lot of customers like, oh, we can do it better myself. Or, I know because I've been doing this for like 10, 15 years. Yes, you are an expert in your field. So if you get, let's say, electrics company, yes, they say, well, we know what we need to do in this industry. We've been doing it for 10, 15 years. But as I said earlier, it just, marketing is changing so rapidly, becoming so much more digital, becoming so much more, agile as well, that actually what you did 10, 15 years ago is good knowledge to have about the industry, but you have to apply it in a completely different way now.
Yeah. And what I use, given that I stopped being an agency in 2014, what I used to say to people is, your industry and your business and you know what you're doing. We know marketing. Those two things come together. It's really, that's how it works. But there was something else that I used to say, which I really wanted to say, which was, marketing is kind of common sense squared. It's like, find a way to add value to the market, find a way to get the messages to them, do a good job, evidence the fact that you've done a good job. That's common sense.
Yeah.
And so I would say to people very often, the best person to do the marketing is you, because you're closest to it and you care the most about it and all these things. But the truth is, with the digitization, if you're not on the tools all day, every day, apart from anything else, you will get fleeced. You can spend a lot of money with Facebook or Google or any of these platforms, LinkedIn, and not see a return unless you are expert at doing that, because what those corporations are really good at is taking people's money. And what I don't think they're particularly interested in necessarily is delivering value. That's my personal opinion. That might be a
I agree.
contentious. You agree? Okay, good.
Yeah,
And we do agree.
I talked about this in a previous talk where I talked about Google has a monopoly. We all know that. They'll never agree on that. But if you look at, I think the stat is 92% of all global searches done through Google.
Yeah.
That's at global level, 92%. So if you can't, so the evidence is there, they have a monopoly. But they changed their model where they started hiring these sales teams to call up the owners of the ad accounts, which are clients, as your Google support account support, which changes every 6 months. And all they do is go through the AI recommendation tools, and it's all about increasing bids, spending more money, introducing new campaigns and accounts where they give a little bit of fluff on the call and do it. And you're right, they get fleeced, they end up spending more money. Most of the time, I'd probably say 7 out of the 10 audits we do on Google, the problems are because of the account managers from Google implementing basic stupid recommendations from the Google platform that has wasted spend on that account and not delivered it, because they don't look at it all the time. They come in and say, do this, do that, I'll call you back in a month. That's not what you need. You need, like you said, an expert who's in the platform every day, understands what's doing, has knowledge from other campaigns and ideas of what's going on, and can implement that. So these platforms, if you're not careful, will, and that's the job of the salesperson, to come in saying, yes, I audited this account, I got them to tick these key boxes, and I got them to spend X amount, and then they get a commission for it.
Yeah. And I'm going through this. I mean, our proposition in the old days was always, we will halve your spend and double your return on Google. And we never missed. You know, it was like you could look at an account and you will say 70% of this is completely wasted. So just by cutting the 70% off, you're never even going to affect the result, the return. I'm doing this at the moment because, like, this year, my mission is to get this channel working better. And on the list of things to do was advertise with Google. And I spent a minuscule amount of money, but they still managed to take more money than they were supposed to take, and they delivered zero value. And I phoned like the Google support, because they're the only people you can speak to at Google, and there was no one there because of COVID. They're saving their staff from COVID. But then weirdly, I got a message from someone at Google, and I got into a conversation, and I managed to get her to admit, because I'm not a very nice person necessarily, I managed to get her to, she's like, you've only got 3 exact match keywords. And I'm like, yeah, because that's exactly the thing that I want people to be searching for to find me. She's like, oh, you need many more, and you need to make them phrases. And I'm like, okay, so which part of the phrase, what is pricing strategy, do you want people to find me for? Like, just pricing strategy, because that's going to be 1 million searches, or what is, or whatever it is. So she admitted, no, that isn't going to help you. So I said, how is having less relevant search terms going to actually increase the efficiency? She's like, oh no, it won't. So yeah, but this isn't about me and my issues. You'll come to know that I've got 1 million issues. This is about you and your experience. So as you know, there's only 5 questions. Question number 1 is, how are you qualified to talk to us about digital marketing? Question number 2 is, who do you work with? How do you add value to their lives? Question number 3 is, what is your recommendation for people who want to get better at digital marketing? Question number 4 is, what should people read? Question number 5 is, who can you throw under the bus who might endure, or maybe even enjoy, to have a conversation like this with me? Most people, well, everyone recommends at least 2 people. So it has to be at least 2 people that you throw under the bus. Okay, so question number 1.
I got loads of people.
Excellent, cool. So, Manpreet, how are you qualified to talk to us about digital marketing?
I guess it's my industry experience with the clients I've worked on. Most people will be surprised when I start rolling off some of the clients and campaigns that I've done. And just my ever evolving to the point where I've now built a successful agency off the back of my knowledge and experience. So I started at Cara, Denso Aegis Group, working with Jet2 and working on a Jet2 account. So everyone in the UK will know who Jet2 are, successful, obviously travel airline, from Jet2, working on brands like Interflora, RHS, through to Park Dean Holiday Homes, through to, the car people. The list was endless. The View from the Shard, Seabucks Crisps, even supporting on the Asda account on the odd occasion as well. So everyone knows who Asda is. Because that was the second office. From there, I was actually headhunted and picked up by an agency called Intermarketing, who actually didn't have a digital marketing department. although were about to like establish their offices in London and Amsterdam and Sydney. Originally, when they were looking for someone to come in as a media person, but when they realized my digital expertise and what I could do and how I was pitching and bringing clients in, they brought me in to support on the Adidas account originally. So the Adidas account, which actually Dentsu had, there's a second side of that account, which is dealing with what people don't realize. Adidas will give money to people like Fanatics, Intersport, DW Sport, all these other retailers, independents, to promote their product. And then those companies have to use a partnered Adidas agency to get the creatives from and do it. And Intermarketing also had the account and still has the account to do the shop fit out design layouts. If you go down to London now and go to the main Adidas store, most of that fit out's probably done by Intermarketing, in terms of design element of it. So we amplified the paid media side of it. And it was very sports and retail driven at Intermarketing, which is now I'm at Home. And from there, I helped bring in clients like Liverpool Football Club, PhD Nutrition. I was going out there working with the financial. I was then built the entire team from Leeds, London, Amsterdam, Sydney, getting clients and doing stuff like uni days. If you're a student in the UK, in uni days, I did a launch for that in Sydney and Melbourne, but doing it from the UK. So I've done international, national, localized account clients from a multitude of sectors. So if you pick a sector out at random, I can probably tell you a client I've worked with in that sector, what I did and how we did it from a digital perspective. And then for Choose as it was, circumstances that led to that I needed to work for myself, because at that point I was working 18 hours a day, but I loved it. So to me, it wasn't really work. And setting up Bobble. And the challenges I faced and the elements of Bobble have led me to become more of an expert in that field. Obviously, being an award-winning agency helps. But it's the fact that I get invited to events like this, podcasts, I get asked to speak, by Google and other people at different events. I wish I could do all of them, but I can't, because obviously you got to give attention to your own agency and your own clients. But, it comes down to I just openly share my knowledge and insights that I've gathered over time, but then I keep adding on to it with everything I learn. So learning from historically what we've done, what the industry has done, to what's happening right now, but what's coming in the future as well. So the way I say it is, I see marketing as like a game of chess. Most people in marketing are a particular piece on that chessboard. So you've got your PPC specialists, that might be the bishop. You've got your SEO specialist, that might be the knight. I play the entire board. I know how every different piece works with each individual piece to win that. And I like to look at it from the opposing point of view as well. So to me, it's like constantly playing a game of chess that you're trying to win, but you can't win it because the game is never ending. It's like unlimited amount of pieces, unlimited amount of pawns, because the whole thing changes. Something new will come in. So randomly you'll have a new piece come onto the board, and then you have to adapt that into your existing strategy of what's going on in the industry. So that's how I view marketing in like a sense. And that's the experience I bring in just as an overview of the work I've done. Even now, working with clients in the US, international level, local level, delivering amazing results. Just some of the reviews and elements we get that our clients are happy to actually feature on our new website, where we're actually putting their details on the case studies. So we're happy and confident to point to say, well, we're that good, contact our clients and ask them yourselves, instead of just having a review.
Okay, cool. Okay, so a couple of things. The first thing is, I think people like you who are overseers, like, what would they say if they were being mean? They might call you a generalist. I don't care. I also am a generalist, and not so much anymore. But when I was running the agency, I knew how all the pieces should be working together and which pieces were likely to be useful in which situation, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's the expertise of a marketing agency. The trouble is, if you niche into PPC, for example, because when I started my business, we started in telemarketing, would you believe, in 2005.
Yeah.
And when I went to pitch someone, the answer always had to be telemarketing, because that's all we did, So it had to be telemarketing. And it's the same if you're a PPC agency, then the answer has to be PPC. And if you are an email marketing agency, then the answer has to be email. So I think generalists are a really good idea, because I actually think the quandary is, like, the riddle is, how do we get this working as effectively and as efficiently as possible? And if you're limited to just one tool or another tool, then you're not really answering that question. You're only answering the question, how do I get the queen to be as effective as possible on the board, rather than how do I get all of these pieces working together? So I applaud that. I'm not sure what the question is.
Well, I guess most people might say I'm a generalist, but I will refute that fact, because I even now can go in, and part of the onboarding is I know exactly how that platform works. I know how accounts should be linked. I know the hacks to kind of get access to. So I can go in, and even to this day, I can onboard a client in terms of I know how to get access to that ad account from another agency and switch it over. Let's say it's Google, how to audit a particular account. So if a client came up to me now, and I've even though I've got a team to do this, I could do probably still a better job than my PPC team on doing a thorough, detailed Google audit. I can do detailed SEO audit myself. I can do anything within Facebook and LinkedIn myself. So I don't call myself generalist, because I've spent that many years doing those platforms. And the difference with me is, even though I probably shouldn't, there are on a couple of accounts where I actively get involved, because that's the only way you can stay in this industry, stay up to date. You talked about it earlier, like you got your mate who spends every 6 months, goes in and it's all changed, and he's like, where do I begin? That doesn't happen with me. I know what's going on. I know what updates are going on, and I get involved in it. Then my team tell me other things are going in, and then I'll actively go in and play around with it myself without the team knowing that I'm actually doing that. So I throw a lot of my time into educating myself in terms of what's going on, so that actually, even though I've got senior like paid media managers and senior SEO managers, they still come up to me with challenges that they might face, because they know that actually I'll be able to provide them with more often I've read something, I'll be able to direct them in the right way. So generalist to a degree, yes, but I'd say that because I've done all these channels and I continue to do these individual channels, I know it better than most. And that's rare, because most people like to just specialize in one area, like SEO or PPC, whereas that's not me. That's never been me. I would get too annoyed and bored if I just did PPC. To me, I'm one of those people, I have to know it all. And that's a difficult task, but I have to know it all. And that's the challenge, and that's the game of chess I play every day. I need to know it all. I need to know everything that's going on. Not like what my team's doing, but I need to know what's going on in the different channels, and how they work, and how they're updating, like what's going on with the latest Google updates, and talking about it, which makes it easy for me to talk about. And that's where the passion comes through, because I know it and I've done the research and I spent the time actually implementing it constantly, as my team do. That's where that passion and element comes to it, because I don't have to do that. I could just read some stuff. I don't have to actually do the actual implementation, but I choose to do the implementation, because that's what I love doing. That's what I like doing, because to me, then it's like I have actual practical experience, not just theoretical experience.
100%. And I think, generalist is kind of a dirty word, so I don't mean to call you that. But I think, I'm going to challenge you. You're a generalist. You know it all. Like you said, you know it all. That is a generalist. The difference between you maybe and most generalists is that you know the detail and the intricacies of all of these platforms because of your experience and your investment in continuing to do it. The thing is, it's like you have to be fanatical about this, because if you're not, these platforms will rinse you again. And the thing that makes digital marketing so dynamic, I think, is that it's kind of operated by 4 corporations: Facebook, Google, YouTube, which is Google, Twitter, maybe LinkedIn. And some dweeb in these organizations decides they're going to change something, and it changes globally. And it's got no reflection on what the users need or want or take value from or whatever. So it is, I think, it's a roller coaster. It absolutely is a roller coaster. I've mainly trained since 2014, and I'm that idiot who will open the tool up in front of a room full of 30 people to show them how it works. And I've lost account of the amount of times that I've opened up a tool. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm sorry, it didn't look like this yesterday. We're going to have to work it out together. Do you know what I mean? Because it is that dynamic. The point of that is, I think it's like the difference between being a marketing manager and being a marketing doer. You know, if you're going to be a marketing manager, you need to be able to think strategically. You need to be able to identify your resources and attract resources, and you need to be able to apply those resources as effectively as possible. So I think we should reclaim, you and I, let's start right here and reclaim the generalist title. It's not a dirty word. It's a requirement, but we absolutely 100% need it. But the other thing
it's a rare skill.
I think it is a rare skill.
It's a rare skill. I don't know many other people in Leeds that can, because they define their skill set into one area. Maybe it's paid media, or it's search, or it's analytics, or it's social. I can compare myself, and if I'm one person in a room, there's loads of other people that are specialists in the areas, but I've got all their skill sets. And if you think of it like a game or a power up, then I'm the Charizard in that room. Does that make sense? You know, whereas
100%.
they're individual elements. So that's how I see it. Is like, you know, you can say it like this. What I mean, I'm happy to reclaim that term generalist, because at the end of the day, when I walk into a room, or you and I walk into a room, other people are probably specialists in one area, whereas I can cover that topic as well as the topic someone else wants to cover and the topic someone else wants to cover. And that is a rare art form. And that takes time, dedication, and passion and skill and investment to understand all that. And that's where companies, clients, and people find value. Because then it's like, you know, being able to see everything is that, and that only comes at the top level. There's like, when you think about it from an army structure, you know, from a armed forces structure, the people at the top are the people that have done it and understand how the different elements all play together.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking exactly army. At the top of the army, somewhere near the top of the army, there's the general. Do you know what I mean? The general, generalist, I don't know. I think we should reclaim that. I think there's something in it. I get all sorts of kinds of militaristic. I throw soldiers around the room when I'm training and stuff, and there will be a general. Do you know? I mean, because I think that's how you motivate British people. You kind of elicit some kind of Dunkirk spirit, and they all get excited. That's what I think. What's the other thing that I wanted to ask? The other thing that I wanted to ask was about the kind of brands that you're doing business with. They're very different from the kind of brands that I do business. Well, what I do business with is kind of small, not even small and medium, probably small businesses, or used to do business with. So their requirement was really obvious. They need sales, they need leads, they need, you know, so that was very, for me, that's a very kind of direct digital marketing kind of approach. What is it that brands like Adidas or Asda, was it that you said, what is it that they need from digital marketing? Surely everyone knows about them already.
Well, obviously I don't work with Adidas and Asda now. That's my previous agency experience. Currently, but it comes down to the key things. I say it comes down to three key things. They want sales revenue. They want leads, quotes, or inquiries. So it's B2C. So they want conversions from a consumer. They want leads, inquiries from a business, so B2B, or they want to build their brand in an effective way and become experts in elements of what they want to do. They're kind of three things most clients want. That's never going to change over time. No matter how many different channels or how digital changes, the core objective of any business will always be to drive revenue, to increase inquiries, and to make as much noise as we can and build our brand out so people know that we're the authoritative, we are the experts in it. You look at Red Bull, they probably do all three. Red Bull build their brand as to be the number one brand and drinks brand, where they assign themselves to sports, endurance, around everything that brand ethics to. You look at, they're all focused about actually building relationships with partners, different industries. I mean, they're right now dominating Formula One. Red Bull, working with other partners, is dominating one of the most competitive motorsport industries there is in terms of, but you know, it says Red Bull Racing. What's that got to do with drinks? Nothing, but that just shows their diversification. But all that does is drive revenue of the amount of cans and products that they have in terms of any drinks around the world. Most clients will either want one or the other. It's either conversions and brand or inquiries and brand. It's always that mixture of two. So that's never going to change no matter what industry you're in, whether you're, you know, it's always going to be the case that you're going to fall into one of those three key pillars. Our clients vary. I like to focus in the digital sphere because, you know, we're a digital marketing agency. I like to work with digital clients. So like one of our clients is Pan Intelligence, which is embedded analytics. Now, most people listening or watching will probably be like, well, what the hell is that? But you don't realize that Power BI is an embedded analytics. It's a platform tool. You've got Sisense, Yellowfin as key partners and competitors in the market. And Pan Intelligence is a challenger to that market. So I love working with those kind of brands because it's a digital solution, it's a digital software, and that's not going anywhere in the next 10, 15 years in terms of like where that industry stands. So it's longevity in terms of working with clients, so you can work with them long term. The odds of you picking up an Adidas or an Asda or a Red Bull as a client is very difficult. You've got to rely on a lot of luck. Sometimes it's what you know, it's not who you know, sorry, not what you know. As well in that industry, as you know, when you're building relationships, people buy into people as much as they buy into the business. So it's hard to get into those kind of brands. But again, you've got to build, you know, your authority as an agency to do that. But most of our clients I try to focus on are B2B, within the digital tech industry. But we have clients in the education sector. We have clients in the e-commerce selling beds, you know, across the UK, furniture. We have clients that we do, you know, marble worktops, which are more B2B higher end customers. School of New York Times, for example, you know, City Football Leadership Institute to Sotheby's Institute of Art, all the way to Variant based in the US. Hoarding cleanup for our client in the US that features on the Hoarders show. So it's diversified. I think it might have been Gareth Healy who recommended me on this podcast previously.
It was Gareth, yeah.
He talks about having a niche, and yeah, he talks about having a niche in an agency that you should focus on a specific element. Now, I take on 50% of what Gareth says. We try to focus in the digital sphere, whether that's digital products that you sell B2B or B2C, or, you know, a digital software tech. But I want to build something different that everyone else has. We have a philosophy, a way of doing things in marketing, which that model can be taken to any business out there in the world, and it can be applied and it will deliver results. And that's a uniqueness, that's a USP that's completely different.
Okay, 100%. So you, Manpreet, are busy answering question number 2, and I haven't even told you that you're qualified to talk to us yet.
Sorry.
It's all right. I agree with you. I mean, I think this thing about being a general, let's say a general rather than a generalist, and this thing about having something that applies to most businesses is really relevant. I was speaking to Abigail Dixon. Her thing went up recently. She also doesn't niche because she says there's real value. Like you might do something in an industry that hasn't even been thought of in another industry. And if you take it to that industry, it can work as effectively. I mean, I think if we're as general as we are, then, you know, I admitted a long time ago, I now work in the principles of marketing and how you apply those to digital. That's kind of where I've gone to, because I haven't got the energy to be on these tools. I haven't got the mental capacity to be in these tools and knowing them all anymore. I just haven't. And there will come a time where you won't have either. But maybe you'll have an AI implant at that stage, and you might be able to just bolt on like the extra bits you need to do that. The point of it is, I think it is valid. And what do I think? I think that is valid. I think if you can attract all of those different kinds of companies, then the two pieces are really understanding digital marketing, in your instance, having an understanding of the value that you drive in the industry that you're working in their instance, and you can bring those two together, then that's the ingredients that you need, I think. So I'm just agreeing with you. The question I was going to ask, but you've kind of already answered it, is it's too difficult, is kind of how do you attract those kinds of clients, as does the Adidas, those kinds of things? You're just saying it's very hard.
It's not hard, but and it's not going to be impossible for us. We have the same ambition over the next 2-3 years to bring on what we call a blue chip. You know, and not to say our clients aren't blue chip, because, you know, we work with City Football Leadership Institute. That's City Football Group. You know, we work with School of New York Times. Everyone knows who the New York Times are and Sotheby's Institute of Art. So we have recognizable brands on our element. Even some of the clients we're talking to and just on the verge of, obviously I can't say, because obviously not until they're signed off and an engagement with us, are highly recognizable. Brands that I've done collaborations with, like Disney and Logan Paul and elements like that. So it's doable, because, and that's only that can't happen at the start of an agency life. because you're starting out, you're trying to find out who you are, where you fit with all the thousands of other agencies in the UK. You have to build your brand presence up. So we, over time, have built an authority to be, best digital agency in Leeds for 2 years in a row, hopefully 3 years next year, and we want to keep that record going. And that's where that comes from, building and working with, SME businesses, building that reputation up, making so much noise out there, collaborating and building relationships with people like Gareth, attending podcasts like yourselves, running our own podcast, being at the forefront of education. And that's how you attract them. I believe the best way to attract them is to educate, because if we go back to the accountancy, if you work for yourself and you're freelancing, you're looking about doing self-assessment returns, and you start Googling something like that, so what's the deadline to do a return? HMRC is more likely going to be the number one response, but the response below that will most likely be something like EY or KPMG. One of the big four websites will feature that, and that's where you will get your knowledge and insight from. So ideally, once they're ready to convert, they're going to go to the brand or the company they got the best response from. Now, the meeting I had earlier this week came from me doing a talk and giving an insight. At a previous event, I stood up and I got the whole audience of 120 MDs and CEOs, and I said, can you summarize your product or service in 4 keywords? I went, raise your hands up if you can. Obviously, everyone's going to raise their hands because they can summarize their product, their company in 4 keywords. And I said, well, if I was to pick anyone out of the crowd, how many of them would be confident they'd be on page 1 of Google? And all the hands started going down. And I picked one out, and he said, oh, LinkedIn training for businesses. So I got my phone out and I typed in LinkedIn training for businesses as I'm in Leeds. He wasn't on page 1. I got everybody else to get the phone out and type in PPC agency Leeds, which is one of the services we offer. We're position 1 on Google. And that's not to brag, but that's basically, so when people are searching for services and elements like that, if you want to track the big brands, you've got to be an authoritative, and you've got to be out there to say, like, we know what we're doing.
Yes.
At the end of the day. So when an SEO client comes to me and I'm competing against someone else SEO and I want to track Adidas, I'm going to say, well, is the agency you're using for SEO, do they even rank number 1 on Google or on page 1 of Google for the services they're preaching to you? Practice what you preach. And what I find is, as we're scaling up and going for bigger accounts, is it's that education, it's that value, it's that expertise and proven track record that we practice what we preach as well as implement it for other clients and have the case studies. So you can, but it takes time. You've got to nurture it. And as your brand as an agency grows, you just naturally attract bigger accounts that will monitor you and, will eventually say, you know what, now we're ready to go. Actually, I like the content from Manny and Bobble because they're very, very active, and elements like that. And that's where it comes from.
Cool. And while we're bragging, because we are,
Yeah.
I don't know why, I don't know how. I do know why, because I really enjoyed it and I was free to do it exactly the way I wanted to. We always, as a company, invested in our marketing. So there was a post out from Gareth today saying that he has stand out and stand still and stand out agencies consistently do their marketing, and stand still agencies do it when they need to do it, etc., etc. We always did it, and very often people would come to us and they would say, we want marketing like yours, which was brilliant because then we know how to do that stuff. We've done it already, So I always really enjoyed that. At the nadir of my business speaking career, we got on a mission because our URL is Effective Marketing Company. In the old days, if you had the URL, you were on your way. We very quickly went to top for Effective Marketing Company, then Effective Marketing, and eventually Marketing Company. And then, so we did quite well out of that. We got on a mission at one point to be top. We wanted to be the most effective website on Google. So we were trying to rank for the word effective, and we got up to number 3. So I was delivering a talk one day and I said, and if you Google the word effective, you will know that we are the 3rd most effective website on Google. And I got, gigs from that. Agencies don't do it, man. They just don't do their own marketing. It's like eating your own dog food. And it's like, okay, so here's the way I see the world now. People don't respect marketing. Marketing agencies don't respect marketing because they don't do it. Do you know what I mean? So how on earth can you engage with a marketing agency that doesn't invest in that doesn't do their own marketing, doesn't believe in marketing? That's the message I get.
What I'm doing is getting other people to kind of like take note of what they're doing.
Yes.
So we have lead forensics, and I'm going to do a post about this on LinkedIn, and I'll tag you in. I've just got the data through from lead forensics over the last 12 months of a breakdown of by industry who's been going to our website that we can track. 27% of it, I believe, or 28% of it is other marketing agencies. And I know who they are, so I'm going to do a tag and I'm going to thank them all, almost like an Oscars speech. I'm going to say this and show the data and say, look, over the last 12 months, 28% of our entire traffic that we've been able to track has been other agencies looking at these fundamental key pages. Why? Because we do really well for what we do. And I want to thank them. I'll say you're welcome. Hopefully you're learning something from us. And that is a bit egotistic. And that is a bit like playing on it's like, I'd call it a bit devil's advocate. But I just like doing that because it's fun. But that will create noise. That might ruffle a few feathers, but I don't care.
Yes.
At the end of the day. I always said that I don't care what other agencies do. I want to know what is Bobble doing. I like the Apple approach. There's a great story about Apple when someone went up to Apple, or one of the chief engineers, designers in Apple, and said, have you seen this new product by Microsoft? It does this. And he goes, it probably does. And he goes, oh, it's this price, which is good value. Oh, it probably is. And it's better than this. And he goes, well, good on them if it is. But then the same engineer was like, well, we'll hopefully bring out a product that is good for our users and something. They didn't care what Microsoft were doing. They didn't care what anyone else was doing. They cared more about, well, what does Apple stand for? What does it know about its customers? And it wants to be the industry authority. They want to be the example. They want to be that the leading industry. And that's what I want to be in Leeds. I want Bobble to be the standard in terms of, like, I don't really care about all these bigger agencies, smaller agencies, like-for-like agencies. I'd say I don't have competition because I really don't care what they do. If they copy us, great, fantastic, you're welcome. If they do other things, I don't go on their website to see what they're doing that I need to do. I know they go on my website to see what I'm doing because I'm the one who's getting the rankings.
Yeah.
So I want to be the one that's saying, well, I don't really care what anyone else does. We're doing our own thing. We're going to continue to do our own thing. And great, if someone else does something better, congratulations to them. But that doesn't mean we're going to shift our approach. We're going to continue doing our thing because we might come out with something better later on at the next go and things. That's how I try to view it. But a lot of other agencies neglect it. But they rely on their brand. They rely on word of mouth. Then I say a lot of people neglect their digital word of mouth. It's all good having that agency reputation, but a lot of people don't know about even some of the bigger agencies in the world. If you know the brands, but if I went up to someone and said, do you know this brand, Adidas? Well, do you know which agency manages it? No. They know the brand, they know the campaign, they won't know the agency.
Yeah.
Off by heart. And that's the case for every agency out there. So it comes down to the fact that, you've got to do your own thing and stand out. And to me, it's music to my ears. If they're not doing it, great, because I'll take that space. Thank you very much.
Yes. And I think you're right. But the thing is, it's like, if I'm right, I normally am, but if I'm right, that businesses don't understand what marketing is and why they have to do it, why would another business that doesn't appear to know what marketing is and why they should do it convince them of that? Do you know what I mean? That's insane to me. And just to draw a line under the general or the generalist thing, if you take SEO can't stand alone. You can't do 20% of SEO if you're not incorporating email and social and ads, and you just can't do it anymore. So I think the world needs you as a general. That's the last thing I wanted to say about that. Okay, so you've kind of given us an indication of who you work with. The question is, how do you add value to their lives? What is it that these businesses need from you, and how do you go about delivering it?
Fundamental element comes down to it's our strategy. A lot of feedback that we get, and the only way you can say you add value is by what your clients actually say about you when you're speaking with them, when they are coming back to you. And the biggest value our clients get back to us is the clear breakdown in digital strategy. Now, a lot of people might think, well, what do you mean by digital strategy? So the value we add is because all our strategy is free and complementary. It comes hand in hand with the services we offer. But that doesn't mean that anyone who comes through my door is going to get a free digital marketing strategy. We cherry pick who we do it for, if it fits within who we are as an agency. But that knowledge and the value a client gets is they get a full breakdown of where they sit within the competitive space within their industry. So that's the first thing we view. We look at them, their industry, their competitors, which they'll tell us who they are. And I'll tell you why we ask for the competitors as well. So we get a full idea of why they sit, where they compare. Because there's so many tools out there that allow us to understand what their competitors are doing, what keywords they're bidding on, what kind of ads they run across social media, how well they rank for particular keywords, what content does well for them, what kind of share of voice do they have online and stuff like this. And that's really valuable because they're the ones they're competing for business with, or leads, or revenue, or brand share of voice online. Then we break down who their audiences are. So who is your ideal customer? If it's B2C or B2B, what's their job title? How many employee sizes have there? What's the revenue of that? We break that down, and from that, we understand that audience's media consumption, their online media behavior. Are they spending time on mobile? If it's social channels, which social channels? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Meta? If it is LinkedIn, what kind of content are they consuming? What influences their purchase decision behavior? Do they rely on reviews? Do they spend time on Google, etc.? What's the websites they're visiting? What kind of brands do they associate themselves with? What kind of apps are they using? Everything we want to know about them, we know about them through our partner GWI Global Web Index. From that, we create a marketing funnel, digital marketing funnel. Here are the channels based on what we know about where you sit in your competitive landscape to actually what we know about your audiences in terms of this is what's going to drive awareness and good quality traffic to the website. Top of the funnel. Bottom of the funnel, here's what we're going to do to ensure through retargeting, on-page SEO, other tactics to drive that end call to action or that conversion or lead or quote, whatever it is, etc. in terms of that element. And then we tell them how to do it by channel. So if it's SEO or LinkedIn or YouTube, they're the 3 channels we'll recommend. But because we're an agile marketing agency, within the first 2-3 months, we know what's working, what's not working. So what they see is not an equal spend on everything. They'll see that more effort's going into SEO because it's driving better results, a better ROI. So the element comes down to it's the data, it's the optimization. The first value comes from the strategy. The second value comes from the analytics. So if you notice on our website, our services are strategy, SEO, PPC, paid social, video display, and analytics. They don't pay for analytics and strategy. That comes as part of the value we offer as an agency. The pay for is managing the services in between. The analytics, what our clients love is that dashboard breaks down every channel, every insight, API from each different platforms, whether it's SEMrush, Google Analytics, Meta, LinkedIn, Google Ads. The finite amount of data that we break down into, right, here's what you're spending per day, here's where your results are coming from, here's what your CPA is, here's your user journey on your website, here's where people are dropping off. The recommendations and the insights they get realizes that actually they get a full overview of how effective the marketing budget is being and what's driving ROI and what's not driving ROI. So it's that data, performance, and analytics. And that's because we have our own USP, our own internal software solution. So most people invest into stuff like Adzoomer or third-party tools. Our value comes in, it's all in-house. So we create our own optimization guide in terms of daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and quarterly checks across individual channels as a bare minimum elements that what we need to do to keep those accounts optimized, and we have our own optimization score. That way we can show a client exactly what we do, how we do it, and what we've been doing. So there's never an issue with overspending budget, drop off in conversion rate, or an increase in cost per acquisition or cost per sale or cost per lead, etc. It's fully monitored and optimized. And then what our clients love on top of that is that we pay external individual freelancers, experts, ex-Google people to come in and audit us to make sure we're not missing anything. So it's the length and the depth and the data that we go into, that value, that basically puts it on a plate that says, right, here's the data. And we make it easy to digest and easy to understand for our clients. That's what the value is, because we take on all that burden of understanding and doing all the hard work, the slog. We just provide it, like a gourmet dish and say, here it is served on a plate for you. Easy for them to digest, easy for them to eat, easy for them to read, to make practical decisions on the business side of things. That was a lot, but hopefully that helped.
That was a lot. It's genius, man. And I'll tell you why, is because the value of digital marketing is the transparency, is the data, is the value of digital marketing. Digital marketing agencies aren't delivering that. Then they're not. The reason it's genius is because I always wanted to get involved at the strategy level, because for me, strategy is 70% of the value. The issue with that, as a marketing agency, I always found nobody wants to buy strategy. They always want to buy tactics. They always want to buy getting stuff done. So also we used to end up bundling in the strategy because people didn't want to sit around talking to marketing people for days on end trying to work out what was going on, is kind of the thing, I think. So yeah, that's genius. And the value is that, what keeps, I don't know if you're aware, I don't even know if it's still true, but I still tell people all the time. They did a survey at some point in history since digital marketing was a thing. The average lifespan of a digital marketing customer in London, supposedly, is 3 months. And it frazzles my mind that might still be true. I should probably take the time to Google it and see if it's still true. But it doesn't surprise me at all, because digital marketing agencies aren't delivering the value of digital marketing of digital marketing, which is you get a sense of what the opportunity looks like on the way in and what it will take to realize it, and you get constant feedback throughout. So there's really, like you said, marketing is a cost. It's also a risk. But what digital marketing does is it mitigates a large percentage of that risk because of the transparency, because of the data. And then digital marketing agencies don't even bother to do like the benefit of digital marketing. It frazzles my mind. It really does.
No, you're right. And one thing we also do is we don't do long-term contracts. It's rolling 30 days. I'm happy to admit that, because I'm not scared of someone coming in and poaching a client, because I know my client's not going to leave. If they want to leave, they've just got to give us 30 days notice. Yeah. That keeps us on edge. The value that is, and our clients ask, why do we do that? That keeps us on edge. But also the time that goes into developing that strategy takes days. It takes a long time. It's not something we turn around. Yeah, there's templates, elements that we cover off, but each one is unique to that industry or that particular client. But if they turn around and say, well, thanks, but no thanks, I've got 5 other competitors that I've already done the groundwork and research and put their effort into, that I'm just going to tell my business development director saying, all right, there's 5 more, go find 5 others.
Yes.
Because we've done the research, and it makes it easy to sell, because then I say, we've already done the ground. We talked to one of your competitors. They want to take it on board, but we can guarantee you X, Y, Z, because we have the tool, we have the roadmap. Here's what we know about them. We're not under no contract not to share any information on that. Our strategy is very, very clear. It's our strategy. We own it. You have access to it. You can have the blueprint to it, but we're the experts that can deliver on it and like basically attest to it. And that's what we do. We do digestible elements. I don't think I've ever had a client leave after 3 months. I can't, not to my reconciliation. Only in a handful of times have clients given us notice, and it's always because they've been bought out by someone bigger who already has an agency, or they're taking it in-house. But our viewpoint is different. This is where clients, and a couple have come back to us, is we make that transfer process so easy. We're like, okay, well, what can we do to help? If you want to take it in-house, make sure you've got the right team, make sure they've got that. This is what we'll do, full handover. And even though we're done and the contract's ended, I always say we're still available for the next 2-3 months. So I'd say for the next month, keep us on your accounts. If you have any technical queries or questions, we can jump on a call with you. We'll show you how to do these kind of things and elements like that. Nobody does that. Nobody's willing to do that because it takes time into resource element things. And that's why I say it's our values and our ethics as an agency that makes it different. And that's why I want to be the benchmark, because that's how you should treat clients, whether they leave you or they come on board with you. You want to leave a lasting good impression, as opposed to, that we want the same impression when they come on board and leave the same impression when if they ever choose to leave or take things in-house. We just recently had a client come through to us that says they've got 2 new employees in. They want us to do their PPC. Again, founders by typing in PPC agency Leeds. But we want it to come in-house after 12 months. We're like, yeah, that's fine. They're like, yeah, but everyone other agency said no. I went, well, not a problem. Well, here's a 12-month plan. Here's what we'll do, and here's what we'll do after 12 months. We'll reduce it. So all we're doing is consultancy. So basically, you've got access to the team for training, support, advice, audits. And what we'll do is we'll do an audit every month and give feedback to your team, so they have what we call our like an independent view to make sure they're keeping on top of it. We're still going to be a client after 12 months, even though they're going to take it in house, but it just changes in terms of our relationship with them.
Yeah, yeah.
But if they ever want to do something new or expand, they're always going to come to us as a trusted source.
Of
So
course.
that's how you create longevity with it. Like, it's all about building relationships. I always say, if it works for the client, it works for us.
And
It's as
that
simple as
should
that.
be, that is marketing. That marketing is working out what it is that the market needs and supplying that thing and adding value and evidencing the value. Do you know what I mean? It's just the thing. It's like win the client, add value. I think that the danger of giving people a strategy is that they'll steal it and give it to another agency to implement. But the thing is, I think even giving even if they implement it themselves, there's this ego that goes on where they don't want to do it the way the data suggests it needs to be done. They want to do it the way they want to do it. And if they take it to an agency, their ego will be such that they won't want to do it the way the data suggests. You know what I mean? It's not. It's There is this thread of anti-digital marketing sentiment that runs through digital marketing. Do you know what I mean? I don't know why people think that marketing is such a vague thing that they can just do it however they like. You know, they wouldn't run their accounts like that. They wouldn't run their production like that. But when it comes to marketing, they want to do it. Okay, we're running out of time. We've only got 6 minutes left and we've only answered 2 questions. I'm happy to tell you, I think you're eminently qualified to talk to us about digital marketing. Thank you. And it sounds to me like you're offering huge value to your clients. So thank you for that. Question number 3, just in like a minute or 2, so we can put this on TikTok. What is your recommendation for people who want to get better at digital marketing?
2 things. Understand who your ideal customer is. Without knowing your customer, you don't know basically it's the most fundamental element. If your customer is older, they're going to react to different types of content, different kind of messaging. So understanding your audience is the most important element. And a lot of people don't realize that data is already there. Look at your Google Analytics, look at people who've already converted or existing clients, look at their job titles, the industries, elements like that. Really, really break down on profile who your customers are. And it's not just one profile, it can be multiple profiles. From that, you then know who they are. You need to start developing, which is obviously the second most important thing, is strategy. Without strategy, it's no fucking point. Pardon my language. I always say that, which is why we offer it. Without strategy, you're basically shooting an arrow in the dark. And what's the point of that? It's going to be a waste of money. It's going to be a waste of resources. And then in the end, what always happens, oh, we tried it, it didn't work. No, you didn't do it right. You tried it and it didn't work because you didn't do it right. It's as simple as that. Don't blame tools. You didn't follow the process. You didn't know who your audience is and you didn't create a strategy around it. By knowing your audience and creating that strategy around it, then you can start tailoring what messaging do they do, understand, well, where do they come from by channel? Are they coming from SEO, organic, social? They come from Google, social media? How do they interact with your brand? How do they find out? And then you can tailor your messaging and your video and your content around to that. Do these people want, guides, or insights or information or booklets from your websites, etc., stuff like that. Understand your audience, develop a strategy, then finally implement it and test. It's not going to work out all the time, but if you know your audience and you build a strategy around it, you've done 70-80% of the work. The final 20-25% is testing, learning, taking the data and understanding what to do. I always say start with the fundamentals. You're not going to build a house without any foundations, and that's what people do, and that's why it fails and the project fails, is they don't understand their audience, they don't create a strategy which allows them to play with the implementation and be agile.
100%. I agree with that. I think you went over the 2 minutes. TikTok will be denied that. Brilliant information.
Just any elements you want.
Okay, what should people read? Question number 4.
I spend a lot of time on specialist websites. So like Analytics Mania is what I love this website. Analytics Mania. So for anyone who is struggling with like the technical side of Google or Facebook or Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics or GA4, get yourself an Analytics Mania. The content that comes through my emails on that one is absolutely fantastic. Very insightful, great guides of how to implement tracking and do that. And that is one of the biggest challenges within a lot of these platforms is with iOS 14 updates, Google changing is how do you track everything on mobile. Analytics Mania is probably my number one, top three actually, elements I go to read. The other thing is I follow a lot of other podcasts as well, specific marketing ones, some of the more generic ones. But again, it's up to you what you kind of really follow and listen to. I kind of tend to follow more the more local regional podcasts from other agencies than anything else because it's always insightful. And I always read a lot of content from media suppliers because it's very, very useful. And media suppliers like what comes out from Google, what comes out from Facebook, what comes out from companies like Modo25, or suppliers that we work with like GWI, the data that they come out with, audience insights. The platforms we partner with, I'm always reading their blogs and content in terms of, because they'll always talk about the latest updates with Performance Max campaigns, latest updates with SEO, etc., and stuff like that. You'd be surprised how many there is. And the final one is, if I want to know something, I YouTube it. I don't Google it, I YouTube it because I want to watch a video on it and I want to see how they do it. I prefer to YouTube something as opposed to Google something, which sounds weird, but if you're struggling on even basic things like Excel and you YouTube it, someone has the answers, created a video tutorial on it. And I always say I learn better from visual and actually doing things than it is. But again, it depends on who you are. So I think YouTube is probably one of the most untapped resource of things, not just to read, but to understand what the hell's going on and how to do it.
100%. And I think you're right. If you're going to be successful in this industry, you have to immerse yourself in it. You have to be in it all day, every day. You have to have it coming into your inbox, because there's so much to it. And I think I'm where you are. Like, I will go to YouTube before I go to Google these days. So yeah, 100%. Okay, good. Question number 5. How have you found this experience, Manpreet?
Oh, this has been great. I don't know where the time has gone. It's been great talking about a lot of things in depth. I've really enjoyed myself. I'm actually glad Gareth recommended me now.
Excellent.
Because I'm an advocate of education and marketing education. So any opportunity to share some insights and help someone and offer some value to somebody, even if it's to their podcast, to me is, the key thing. And that's what the industry should do more of.
100%. Okay, good. So I just wanted to check in because the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is throw a couple of people under the bus who you think might also be willing to have a conversation with me like this. So do you have people in mind that you think, and it will need to be people that you can introduce me to, and you do like a LinkedIn type of introduction like Gareth did for us?
Yeah, definitely. Well, one of my closest mates also runs her own agency, is Claire Daniels at Tria Media. She's featured quite a lot in the news recently because they're one of the few agencies trying the 4-day week as well.
Okay.
But does some of the elements we do, but really focuses a lot on content, web, has a good specialism. I think is actual untapped genius and untapped genius in actual when it comes to marketing. Claire Daniels. On top of that, I would probably recommend probably Fiona from FB Comms. When it comes to social media, she is the content I see from her is unreal. On LinkedIn, as a social media expert, her agency is amazing. She's actually going to feature on one of our podcasts as well. But she is one of the few people when I go online and I'm seeing the content on LinkedIn, that's absolutely fantastic. And then I'll give you a shout out to one more if one of those two drop off because they are quite busy, is Demi Aspey, who's a freelance writer. Her content of late has been fantastic. She's a copywriter specialist. Her content on TikTok is amazing. She's currently writing up, helping us redo our tone of voice and content on our website. So they're the three I recommended. And ironically, all three are female. So it just shows you the dominance of females in digital marketing right now. That's
brilliant. And I didn't even need to comment that they were female. Thank you so much for that. No, it really does help. I think I do want to speak to the trouble is, I think because I'm a guy, I may know mainly guys. Do you know what I mean? So I think the balance isn't right, but you've put us in the right direction again. Thank you very much. I know you have to run, man. So what we'll do very quickly is we'll say goodbye now for the benefit of anyone who's still watching. Well done if you are still watching. Like, subscribe, comment, share, etc., etc. So we'll say goodbye now for those people, and then I'll stop recording and we'll say goodbye like normal human beings. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, man. Thank you so much for your time.
No, honestly, thank you for inviting me, and thanks to Grant for recommending me. I hope everyone who's been listening has had some value from it.
I'm sure they will have done. You've said some brilliant things, man. Thank you so much.